गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। आज हम we're going to talk of the Bangladesh upheaval and the effect it has had on India and its strategic neighborhood, right? And it's going to be a complicated thing. And for this, to decode this complex kind of an equation, I have with me Brigadier Sahgal. Sir, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot once again. Long time since you and I have had a talk on this subject or any subject of this kind.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, what I'd like to say is it's been almost 10 days since the political coup. I call it still a political coup in Bangladesh, right? This political coup has got shades of the regime change, which often the US does, some kind of a color revolution. But the Bangladeshis view it as a complete revolution within a monsoon revolution. The feedback I get from Bangladesh, what a lot of people is that, look, this has got nothing to do from outside. Well, these are two sides of the story. The answer might be somewhere in between. But this is a upheaval for many issues, and a lot of our strategic equations have gone awry. And this is in the back of our problems with Maldives, there's some problem with Nepal, and there's an ongoing issue with Myanmar. And, of course, Pakistan remains a hostile entity. That is just the strategic neighborhood. And now what I see is there's a problem in Thailand also, which is
Hmm.
cropping up. So you see a ring of regime changes and color changes happening. Something like which happened in the monsoon. You know, I won't say spring. The color revolutions in the Arab Spring, or the color revolutions in the in the first decade of the century uh, in Georgia, and, Ukraine, and all those. And
Absolutely.
the timeline, I wouldn't say the timelines, the methodologies, the way things have gone about are almost the same. So in this context, sir, I would like you to dilate on various issues, and you start with the problem in Bangladesh, your perspective on it, and then we'll get to the other neighbors, and then the impact on India and international thing. You can take it the way you want it. All yours, sir.
So very much. Thank you very much to to you and to your channel for giving me this opportunity. I will try and look at and explain people what is South Asia all about. We have to understand South Asia first, and then we see the how the dynamics in South Asia are playing out. We
Let
have
me know when you want a map, sir. I'll put
I will.
when
I will, sir. I will. The point to note is, as everybody by and large knows, that India is the fulcrum of South Asia, and there are countries which are all around India, our neighbors, but none of them are neighbor of the other person. So essentially, is we are taking India has to deal with 6, 7 South Asian states separately in a separate context, and there is no congruity between the states themselves. The second important point we have to understand is all these states remain a weak geopolitical and economic construct. They are unstable, and this instability is despite years of governance and democratic sort of a democratic order that they have ushered in. There is weak economy, weak political construct, the social and political construct between the people and the leader is weak. The result is that they have this tendency to put all their problems on the outsiders rather than looking inwards. The another issue is they have started to play a balancing game. The balancing game has come about essentially because of China's outreach strategy. I have been saying it for a long time. China, in southwestern China and even in the western China, It's seen as a constrained power. It's a continental power. It is seeking an access into warm waters. It has tried to exploit this through our neighboring states. The entire issue that we have to understand is this: is that China is now no longer only a, a neighbor, but it is an important geostrategic player in South Asia. So when we look at South Asia strategy for India, we have to take cognizance of China's role and China's actions in South Asia. The, the next issue is, broadly speaking, is there is no regional initiative. We used to have a thing called the SARC. SARC was a weak construct, but yet it had a number of other elements in SARC, SARC trade, SARC economic, SARC technology, SARC for health, etc., etc. It provided a forum for anger venting. It provided a forum for people to give out their views, and it also provided a forum for collective meeting with the leaderships of the SARC countries. While India has clearly given the construct of our relationship with Pakistan and its continuous cross-border terror, and the fact that the next SARC meeting has to be held in Pakistan, which India is clearly not comfortable with. The issue basically is this: is that there is no opportunity of the SARC leaders to meet together. We came up with different constructs. We initially came up with BBIN, which is Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, and Nepal. We tried to create a sort of a
Quadrant.
coalition of countries over here. Here again, we did very well. We tried to create a transportation corridors. We tried to create an economic corridors. We tried to create economic parks, trade zones, etc., etc. But sadly, it did not take off. Then we come up with a BIMSTEC, which is at best a partial success. It's more success purely for conservation reasons, particularly in the ocean, particularly in the marshes and those areas, and not so much of other aspects. And as far as the connectivities are concerned, they are now have come to the kind of trouble that is taking place in Myanmar and now in our northeast, etc., in which we are the trilateral highway, etc., are gone for a sec. So the similar issue is taking place in IOR. In IOR, Sri Lanka has has been induced to provide certain degree of facilities and long term assets to our inimical neighbors.
I know.
Similar neighbor, the same neighbor, China, is trying to do that in the Maldives, and all this is happening in our region. Yet, the sad part of the whole issue is that, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, specifically coming to Bangladesh, the problem with the Bangladesh is very simply is this: is that there are two perceptions on Bangladesh. There's an Indian perception and there is a Bangladeshi perception. Indian perception essentially being is that Bangladesh is a friendly country. We helped creating this country. We fought. We gave our blood for this country, and so therefore this country has to be cooperative with us. I mean, we are not saying that this country has to be beholden to us. Have to be cooperative with us. The Bangladeshis feel, and ever since that their trade has taken off, they've become a new textile power, and an increase in the GDP, etc., have taken place. The Bangladeshis have felt that they have come of age. The Indian angle is there. They support India. They are keen on India. But India is not the only player in town. There are other players in town. One is West, with whom they have a huge trade relationship, and other is China, which is trying to push into Bangladesh, and it serves Chinese purpose, which I talked about, and I'll cover it a little more. to to play the games. The United States has, in the meantime, like I was telling you, is now become a larger geopolitical construct. So to contest China's moves into the Indian Ocean, into the Bay of Bengal, which is becoming a strategic area, the United States, along with its allies, is now trying to push into the region and try to create what I call a containment strategy. In this, an important thing happened. A couple of weeks back, there was a discussion in which it was Indian side clearly conveyed to the Americans that this is our backyard. We don't want your interference. We'll manage this ourselves. And therefore, please let go. This is a short and straight what discussed. The Americans was very clear also. They said, look, we respect this your shop backyard. We respect that you are the major player over here, but please try and understand we have our interests. We cannot allow the Chinese a free pass. We cannot be indifferent to the Chinese moves in Bangladesh. We cannot be indifferent to the Chinese Shakufu arrangement and securitization, increasing securitization in
Myanmar.
Myanmar, and the fact is that sooner or later, the Chinese strategy of the two ocean strategy will swerve to the west because in the east they are getting highly contained and there is no push forward for the Chinese. And also the fact is the Chinese entire trade depends on this region. So if we have to contest China, we have to bring in this region into account. We do not have the heft for the entire Indian Ocean region, but we can certainly and would like to play an important role in the Bay of Bengal area and along the Malacca Strait. And that, if you see the writings which are coming out of the AUKUS, the Australians are going to deploy one or two of their nuclear
Nuclear
submarines
subs.
from America into the region as part of the new kind of arrangement. So this is the big, broad play. India has to play in understand the dynamics of South Asia into this game. So now you ask me what is happening. The potential scenario in South Asia. I'll now come to the basic issue. You very rightly said Bangladesh is in the throes of what they call themselves into the second revolution. The violent protests are continuing. There is a damage to property, etc., going on. There is an interim government in place. Interim government is making the right noises. We have no idea what is going to happen. The cookie is going to crumble when the issue of elections start up. The political consolidation takes place. Politically, Bangladesh National Party and Muhammad Yunus are more aligned to the West than they are to China. Uh, but that doesn't mean the Chinese are losing this thing. I'll cover that part in my second part of my this thing. But the fact of the matter is that the acting president of BNP, since Sheikh Khalida is in prison, he sits in England, and he sits in England, and he carries out the operation from England. He's still not come back to Bangladesh, and Muhammad Yunus, as you all know, has been a part of a charmed Western establishment who have brought it up, who are also responsible for providing, uh, given his work in the Grameen Bank, a Nobel Peace Prize. So, so the situation in Bangladesh remains flux. We cannot be indifferent to what is happening over there. The atrocities against Hindus, my personal feeling is going to go down. They will take some steps, not that they will be completely down, but the major issue is going to be is political consolidation. Now, the political consolidation issue is like this: there is Bangladesh National Party, there is Jamaat Islamic cadres, and there's a huge Awami League cadres. What the Bangladesh students and the new establishment is trying to do is to keep the Awami League cadres out of the equations of the new political setup. How will this work out? How can this work out? That's the issue that we have to ask. Nobody asked this question. You cannot keep the Awami League out. And
Yeah,
if the sorry,
may I,
yes,
one point, right? I would just want to reinforce. This is something like what's happening in Pakistan trying to keep PTI out. It
yes,
can't. It doesn't
exactly,
matter whether Imran is in jail or not.
exactly the same point is going to happen. The Awami League will fight the elections as independent, just like the PTI did, and may emerge as one of the most stronger political force. How do you stop that from happening? And what is the guarantee? What is the guarantee? See, it is all very well for people. I mean, there is a push comes. There is a general belief that Bangladesh is rich, but the people are poor. That kind of a status is this over there. But the important point is this honeymoon period gets over very soon.
Yes.
The honeymoon period is okay, you have had your second revolution, we have had 2 months, we have had 3 months, we have had 6 months. Now, where is the money going to come from? The same thing was faced by Sri Lanka. And who bailed them out? We gave them $4 billion of assistance. Eventually, to deal with their problems, eventually, to deal with their internal issues, they will have to fall back on India. And it is important also to note that the fifth largest economy surrounds these countries. We have the capacity, we have the resources, we have the capabilities. That's something which these short-sighted political leaders, and I have had the privilege of dealing with a large number of them in my various capacities post-retirement. It's amazing, amazing. They live in a bubble. So and our sadly our journalists, senior journalists, the guys who interview them, ask them such leading questions where and push out interviews which have no meaning. So the question basically for Bangladesh is this thing is what next? How are you going to manage things? Now, this is a issue, and this is a question for India also. How do we manage our relationship? Which is the kind of discourse that we want to have uh, with Bangladesh. I leave Bangladesh here, and then I go to Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. We all know understand what is the scenario over there. Now with the Faiz Hamid's arrest, I mean, everybody knows rest of it. Let me come to Faiz Hamid's arrest. Faiz Hamid's arrest for a ordinary sort of a reason of not paying the money to some guy with on
Developer.
whom he got some property, capital builders, is not the reason.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So.
Faiz Hamid is becoming a focal point of dissidence against the present army chief, whom he replaced as the DGISI, and remains very close to the PTI cadres. And the army believes that he, along with the younger generation of the army officers, who continue to look up to Imran Khan as a potential savior of the country, at least a guy who believes in the that he has not sold the country to the West. I mean, that's what their belief is. So they believe him to be an important force. Added to that is the whole issue of entire northwestern frontier province as well as Balochistan on fire, and fires which the army cannot control. And that is where another problem is occurring. They sought strategic depth in Afghanistan, but they have given the strategic depth to TTP instead of themselves in
Yeah.
Afghanistan. So this is what the scenario in Pakistan is. Pakistan will remain on boil, and while we are looking at Bangladesh, my suggestion to all concerned is कि आप बांग्लादेश की तरफ देखिए, परंतु पाकिस्तान से नजर मत हटाइएगा. वहां पे काफी कुछ गदर चल रहा है. Okay, the next issue that we come to is the same. I mean, I will not go into detail of Sri Lanka, etc., etc. Sri Lanka uh, and Maldives, things are not okay and okay. And as far as Myanmar is concerned, we will come to it separately when we go to the second part. And now, can I ask you to show the map as far as
Yes.
India's relationship with its neighbors in South Asia is concerned. See, this is the scenario we have. Out of six countries other than India which comprise this region, we have a starting from the west, we have a hostile relationship with Pakistan. With Nepal, we are cautiously optimistic. I'll come to the India-Nepal relation a little later. We have friends in Bhutan, but who are under facing tremendous pressure from China. I have not put hostile Bangladesh as it. I would put it as ambivalent. I say ambivalent purely because, in my opinion, the revolution has not played itself out. It's the early days of a revolution, and bringing them into a hostile category will be premature, and I think decidedly not right. And as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, we are cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic in the sense that we have enhanced our engagement, etc., etc. I'll come to that a little later. But we believe that things are on the mend as far as Sri Lanka is concerned, and we can have a reasonably good working relationship with Sri Lanka. And as far as Maldives is concerned, Maldives, our actions in Lakshadweep and Minicoy, etc., and the fact is that India has clever diplomatically tried to play its cards, not reacted unnecessarily bullishly. We have been able to mend some kind of fences uh, in the region. So, by and large, we I would say we are not on the bend, but let's put it this way: the drop in our relationship has with Maldives has stalled, and now we are on the way to make amends, and hopefully over a period of time, it will never be as it was before Muzi came to power, but it will be a certain degree of improvement that we'll see as we go along, particularly if we continue to play our cards. So this is where the political scenario in South Asia is concerned. Uh, so I will next. I'll come to political climate in the region. But if you have before that any questions to ask me or any issues to ask me, I will. I'll stop here to give you time, sir.
So, what you said is pretty clear. I like to summarize it. We are now in a situation where all around we say there's a significant shift which has taken place from say 2 years back or a year back when things seemed okay to now where all our neighbors, of course, Pakistan was always hostile to us, where all our neighbors seem to be not on the same page with us, right? I will not say they are on a different page, but they're not on the same page also. And we don't know which page they'll enter. That's the next problem which
Yeah.
we see. We don't know. Uh, I'd like you to tackle this question a little later. What do we do about this? I
I,
mean,
I
internally, we could tackle this in the end if you don't mind.
I will do that. I'm doing that in the end, sir.
Yeah, so we'll tackle that. So, this is a question which everyone needs to understand. And today, the way I look at it, and I would like you to comment and this thing, the crux of our neighborhood policy revolves around how to handle Bangladesh and our relationship with Myanmar. How to handle, because I think the disturbance in this area is maximum there at this point of time. So this issue, so if you could highlight
Yes, sure,
down the
sure.
line. Yeah.
Okay. Now I come to the next part, which is I try to highlight. I call it the political climate in the region.
So
So that people
you
understand.
you like the map or should I take it off?
No, leave it. It's good.
Okay.
Map is good. Coming up.
Okay.
Despite years of independence, region has not experienced political stability. We talked about it. But what is important is political leadership in the region is marked by autocratic traditions, and there is a failing socio-economic contract between the leader and the populace. The masses have always felt that the leaders are letting us down, and leaders are themselves only concerned about themselves. The second important point is this is leading to pure poor economic situations in most of these countries, who are all of them are economic basket case other than Bangladesh. And even Bangladesh, the latest is that its foreign reserves are going down drastically. But let's put it this way: give devil his due. Bangladesh is not a basket case, but the other one are. What is happening is because of their economic troubles, political vitiated atmosphere, they are succumbing to external pressures. And in succumbing to external pressures, most of the time they are trying to make India as the whipping boy. So India is expected to yield to their all their like petulant children's demands, and if you do not do it, then they play this balance of power games, and they say, okay, we'll go to this guy, we'll go to that guy. Look at when I talk about autocratic leaders, you have to look at it. Rajapakse, Sheikh Hasina, look at the Maoist Oli over here. In Pakistan, we do not have a political leader but there is a background political leader called the army who controls everything without any sort of they have no responsibility. So what has happened is in all these countries, this has provided military a central role. The military central role has allowed the military to play the role of a kingmaker or backgrounder. They remain in background but shape the political discourse. In this scenario, Bhutan is the only country which is marked the different. It has moved from monarchy to an open democracy and now has had its fourth elections in
Yeah.
which they have got a new prime minister. Now look at Myanmar. On Myanmar in 210 had elections. They went through a period of democratization. I have had the privilege of visiting Myanmar a number of times, addressing the Myanmar military as well as track two dialogues. It was sight to see Yangon Airport. It was sight to see the export zones. It was sight to see the literature which the Japanese are bringing in. And the investments that Japanese were bringing in. All that was going on, and Myanmar was on a high course of development, and a large number of countries were investing. And suddenly, in 2021, what happens? Or 22, whatever it is, what happens? A democratic elections are held, and a military junta just simply takes over the country. Now the situation over there is again is the autocrats of the military junta are now facing trouble. They are facing trouble primarily because you can push people behind. You can up to a point, but you cannot override them forever. Result: there are a large number of forces that have come into play, including the Chinese role. There is now talk about certain degree of mercenaries and arms and equipment coming in from the east through Thailand into the region. It has become a big thing from drugs. The result today is Myanmar is in turmoil, but the good sign as far as Myanmar is concerned, the nationalistic forces which have been created along with the insurgent groups like Kia, the Shan states, and others are now reorganizing themselves to bring in about a certain degree of let's put it away, a democratic polity or where or a people's movement back into place. We do not know what type it will be, but that's what is going to be happening. So that's the issue over there. Maldives, as we already know, now we come to Nepal. Sorry, now Nepal again has been dithering between Nepalese Congress, United Marxist Leninist Party, KP Olis, Madhav Nepal used to be there earlier. Then the Mr. Prachanda, and all along there has been only an attempt to grab political power without any serious attempt at economic development, infrastructure development. Their demand from India have constantly gone up for more and more investments in their projects. India has done that, but anytime India has dithered or asked them for some degree of responsibility of their own, they have tried to go to the Chinese, and Chinese have welcomed their investment. Because go back to what I was trying to say, Chinese is landlocked this thing. If Nepal comes under Chinese influence, and I said there is the agreement, the trilateral agreement between Nepal and just a minute, yeah, China, Nepal, India economic corridor that was proposed in 2018, and the Trans-Himalayan multi-dimensional connectivity network that has come up. Now that is the kind of this thing they are trying to create, and that will allow China to export and import goods through Nepal from the Calcutta port. So go back to the point I was trying to make is that they're all seeking warm water access. So this is how the cookie crumbles. Each one of these states are politically weak, unstable, economically compromised, and they are hedging and balancing, trying to uh, hedge India against the role of the other place. And in most of these, in immediate terms, Chinese are moving in, and the main instrument of the Chinese is BRI. Now I'll come to the role of external actors. Before I go there, if you have any questions, sir, I'll come back to them.
No, I'm okay, sir, with what you have said. You
Okay.
outlined that we are living not only in a hostile environment, we are living in a politically weak environment which is surrounding us. And all of them have to look at India, and they are not comfortable with India, and hence they hedge out, which is the state, I think, which we have to live in or live with for a long time to come, right? Especially when their own political environments are shaky. So,
Exactly.
yeah, the logical question about this, which I'll ask later, or which I'm sure you'll highlight, is what do we do about it? But
Okay.
that's a later day question. But we'll go ahead with what you have to say, sir.
Okay. Now my next part of my presentation is South Asia and the big power competition. We have to understand South Asia is a part of a big power competition. The first and foremost is, let's look at our West. Pakistan has leveraged its strategic location, allowed itself to be used repeatedly by America for seeking arms and assistance and allowing Americans their, their fight on terror in Afghanistan. The next issue is having sort of played the American card to the hilt, and the Americans having lost interest post withdrawal from Afghanistan. The new boy in the region is China, which is trying to fulfill both the Pakistani coffers, Pakistani infrastructure investments, and Pakistan is not at all concerned with the strategic implications of Chinese insidious moves into the region. They're willing to sell property, they're willing to sell land, they're willing to sell coastlines, and allow China a free hand into the Arabian Sea and at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. So this is something which is a very serious development, and India needs to take cognizance of that. We cannot remain nonchalant about this development. The next issue is the exploitation of the entire region by China using its BRI. And BRI, as we all understand, is not an economic construct between nations. It is a political understanding between leaders who go to China, seek assistance for various projects, and they are settled on political terms. They are not settled on economic terms. No tenders are issued, no nothing. So executors are the Chinese companies, role providers are Chinese companies, and everything is done by the Chinese company. So what do? It's like a typical money lender case. Money lender has lent you money, he lent the resources. Now the payback time comes. So what happens on the payback time? They get either part of the payment in terms of electricity, other resources, or force you for concessions, force you for opening up your territorial spaces, like they are seeking in Gwadar, like the Shigapse Nepal highway, which is now trying to create a land link and to connect it to those the trilateral highway I was talking about. So this is all part and parcel of that. What are they doing in Bangladesh? They are looking. They failed. They have now come up to Bangladesh. 73% of the Bangladesh weapons are Chinese.
Chinese.
The 73%, sir, are Chinese weapon systems. The Sandio port, they wanted to develop as a base. They were denied. What have they done? They have created BNS Sheikh Hasina, a 6 bin nuclear submarine, sorry, not nuclear, submarine base. Well, all that the Bangladesh has is only 2 submarines. What are the 4 submarines pens are meant for? We do not know. And also 3 pens for frigates and larger ships, which again the Bangladesh does not have. So, seriously speaking, the Chittagong port or the Cox's Bazar area of the Chittagong port has actually been sold out to the Chinese. India has remained, I'm sorry to say, indifferent to these developments. We have not done very much to it. The next issue is that they have now started to build large scale infrastructure projects, hugely not required. They built up a tunnel under the Tista River, which is not required. Which is absolutely white elephant, and those are the issues that are questioned. But that is how they get concessions. So today, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, it is heavily under Chinese debt. It has a $23 billion trade with China, and it cannot just come out of this debt, and it has to. Therefore, in the new regime, will have to perforce remain relatively friendly to China. As far as the US is concerned, US is concerned about the Chinese inroads into
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. It is concerned about the fact that it has got bases over there. It is concerned about the fact that when you look at the securitization of the Chakfu, which is the deep water single buoy moorings from where the entire oil is pumped, is pumped into the downside refineries in Yunnan. There's a huge pipeline. There's a railway line that's coming up. Now they look and all the incidentally all the airfields on the western periphery of Myanmar have been upgraded to take the latest Chinese aircraft. So yes, सबको देखते हुए Americans have made their move, and their move is that they wanted to a Saint Martin Island. It's not a joke. They want Saint Martin Island because slightly away it is a territory which is also was demanded by Myanmar, which has been under arbitration, has been given to Bangladesh. So the bottom line is that the Americans are also moving in. And now you had asked me a question on what is happening, the role in Myanmar. So in the initial phases of the struggle in Myanmar, the Chinese were playing the ball game. The Chinese were playing a big ball game, and they were trying to ensure that the military junta allows Chinese interests not to be compromised in Myanmar, and can make significant inroads. But this has changed ever since there has been a fight back by the democratic forces, supported by outside players. Since I do not have full information, but I understand some of them are Western sources, Western manpower is also coming. Soldiers of fortune are moving into the region to play a hand over there. Some arms and equipment are being provided to these forces. The developments in Thailand and the party that has which was pro-American party, which has suddenly been made defunct by the Thai king, has been a setback for Americans, but it's not going to be a long-term setback. I'm aware of the fact that the Americans have been invested in Thailand, despite Thailand moving much more closer to China.
China's.
The new railway line is coming via Laos, Vientiane, right up to Bangkok, which will connect Yunnan, Kunming to this thing, and again provide an outlet. So all these things are taking place, and there is this whole area which you see south of Bangladesh going right up to the Malacca Strait is an area that is becoming an area of concern. In Sri Lanka, we have stalled things somehow. There is no doubt Hambantota has been given to the Chinese for 99 years lease. Chinese have got their technical facilities that have come up over there. Chinese have their forward repair facilities that are being built over there. But a new interesting development which is not being talked about has been that the lease of the Hambantota airport, which has been given jointly to India and Russia. Now that's an important aspect. Again, interestingly, in this geopolitical game of chess, the Russians are also putting their hands. Last month, there was a major, not major, an exercise was conducted between Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Russia. And we are all aware of the fact is that the by and large entire air defense systems of Myanmar are from Russian origin. There are large number of these armed vehicles are of the Russian origin. Similarly, the fed up with the Chinese equipment or malfunctioning of the Chinese equipment, the Bangladeshis are also toying with the idea of getting from Russia. So the bottom line at the end of the day is this: is that every one of the three players are involved into ensuring that this water space of Bay of Bengal, which is through which China is seeking major connectivity, is contested and constrained. The India has to perforce look at this space much more seriously. I'm sure the policymakers in Delhi are looking at it, but they have to not, in their attempt to play the regional card, they cannot forget the larger geopolitical picture that is emerging in the region. So this is my the next issue. So so as far as you have asked me a question, what should India do? Am I right, sir? That's what the
Yes, yes, sure.
question is. So the fundamental point India has to realize, like I was mentioning just now, that South Asia is not a bilateral issue with these 6 countries, 7 countries. It is part of a larger geostrategic construct. And it is part of a larger geostrategic construct both in continental domain because of our violent borders, unsettled borders, Chinese inroads, as also in the maritime domain, again an area in which the Western oriented philosophy of the Chinese or the PLA Navy, in which they'll seek greater investments into IOR and greater deployments in the IOR. I've said somewhere else that by 2027, 2028, we'll probably see first carrier battle group of the Chinese deployed in the Indian Ocean region. So we have to be cognizant of that. Added to that, please also note the fact that by that time, we would see first or second or maybe three strong class submarines which China is building for the Pakistanis may come on board. And 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 please, when we talk about capacity building of our adversaries, we should correlate with ourselves. And here, if you notice, we are still in the stage of finding development partners. We're taking stage of taking decisions, and we are not moving fast enough to to deal with the emerging challenges from people who already have the resources and the capacities to fast-paced development in this region. So India has to be. Second point is, as far as our neighbors are concerned, we should not look at them purely from a bilateral point of view or from the munificence point of view. They do not owe us any favors. We need to deal with them as near equals or equals, get into relationship with them on in a manner in which they believe that their interests are being looked after, but we should also tell them in no uncertain terms, this is not gratis. And here, the important point to note is this, is to each one of our neighbors, particularly Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, even Maldives, we should be very clear. India will not accept its red lines to be crossed. Should make it very clear, absolutely clear, that our red lines cannot be crossed, and if they are crossed, India will react. The manner of reaction is a multifarious reaction, but that's not important. The important part is the messaging. I'll take a small example. Developments in Bangladesh has jeopardized the corridor which we have negotiated from Siliguri to northeast, and the railway link that we are trying to create. What should be our response? Tomorrow, if the Bangladesh turns around and says we will not honor this agreement, should we just sit back? That's the red line I'm talking about. It's a clear red line for us. We have worked hard. We worked together. Similarly, Tista Dam. Can we allow the Chinese to come and build the Tista Dam? Similarly, Kalapani, the tri-junction. We cannot allow a Chinese role in that. So we have to be very categoric. We also have to be very categoric. No capital ship of the PLA Navy can come to Hambantota. If they have to come to Hambantota, it will be under Indian scrutiny. India will have to ensure that these resources, this long-term leases that they have given to these people cannot be exploited. So, economic aid, development aid, etc., has to be given. Fourth issue is there are some incidents at the social level. We have a cross-border movement of people. We have religious issues. Those need to be handled with more sensitivity. One of them is this Agniveer issue with the Nepalese. It's a big issue with the Nepalese. It's a home and hearth issue for the Nepalese. We have a huge constituency in Nepal who are ex-servicemen. We need to take cognizance of that. It cannot happen that we suddenly lose this leverage. Similarly, We have to see the situation in Bangladesh very closely. We have to see how Bangla BNP as well as the Jatia and the Awami League cadres behave. And then we also have to have a reach out strategy to the Awami League. We simply cannot turn around and say we used to have a relationship with Sheikh Hasina. No. Awami League is a force which is born out of India's blood and sweat. It was created post our investment into that country. You are sovereign country, respect it. You play the sovereign role, respect it. But we unfortunately are a big brother and we have big interests. You cannot turn around and do anything which countermands our interests. Equally, it is important for India not to make the other guy believe that we are big brothers, so we will shove down your throat. No, it has to be an, a discussion of equals, but pushed in that discussion of equals, a clarity of India's strategic interests and India's red lines. If you have any more questions, sir, I mean, I
So,
stop here.
no, I want a clarification. Very
Okay.
clearly here, uh, the events in Bangladesh indicate, and even in Myanmar, in this general area, do indicate to us that the USA has enhanced its role in this area, which was not there, say, a year back, right? And at many times, their role today is not totally in consonance with our interests. But going further, the way things are going are coming about, it's in our interest to have strategic convergence with USA. How do we handle this? Because this is something which is uh, this situation has thrown up.
Okay. Yeah, it's an excellent question, sir. It's an excellent question. I mean, my answer may look. We need to have strategic convergence with United States. We have been telling United States, lay off Sheikh Hasina, don't bully her, let her handle the whole situation. She can manage the situation. We were in a belief that Sheikh Hasina, despite her her political expediency, her boorishness in dealing with people, and the way she had autocratic nature, etc., was acceptable to us as long as she was in control of things. And I'm given to believe, my belief is that we were also getting quite aware of the fact that she was not in control of things and that there were a massive protest building up against her. At that point in time, we told the Americans to lay off, let her handle it. And if you notice, in immediately after elections about April, May, and all, Americans did make some conciliatory statements vis-a-vis Bangladesh, but never sort of gave in completely. Today, sadly, they have been proven right. Should we re engineer the whole issue with the Americans? And if we have to re engineer the whole issue with the Americans, how do we re engineer it? Similarly, in Myanmar, if you notice, the NSA has been to Myanmar recently. He had a talk with the military junta. I'm sure we have a reach out strategy to the democratic forces. But the point at issue is this: Myanmar is our neighbor. Myanmar is a contested zone between us and the Chinese. Myanmar is a place from where the Chinese are trying to build up a huge front base into the Bay of Bengal. How should we handle Myanmar? We need to be proactive. We have all these 3 4 years had a low key approach. No wonder Defense Secretary has been there. Our chiefs of army staff have gone there. Our
But that
naval
has,
chiefs
that
have gone.
won't achieve much, sir.
That's a show of this thing. That means nothing. So you have to be pragmatic and be let the world say anything. If you want to be a big regional power and you want to be a credible regional power, you have to take the shit with your policy. You have to take let the world come accuse you. Let them say you're not a humanitarian. But
That's okay.
your interests are paramount, and you have to fight for your interests, and that is the most critical issue. And for us, a shining example, at least in the process of shining example, is how we are trying to slowly, steadily, at highest level, pushing, calling the Maldives Prime Minister over, President over, sending our foreign minister over, number of meetings at various levels, trying to shape our agenda to in a manner that Maldives actions do not hurt our interests. So I'm not saying they should the cooperation over here, they should not harm our interest. And third issue is Myanmar is central to our reach out strategy to ASEAN. The trilateral highway, we have to have the trilateral highway. We have to have. There was another port south of Yangon. I'm forgetting the name, from where a road was to be constructed to Thailand. That also have gone by. So we need to be more proactive in these areas and not allow our perceptions of a big power play, regional play, to overshadow our regional interests in our neighborhood. My Sometimes I get the impression is that we are more keen to play a regional and a global role than within our strategic neighborhood. We sort of look at it as a low key issue, which will and now we have been given, uh, first the Maldives, now Bangladesh have given a wake up call, and I think we need to wake up to it and have a more proactive, progressive policy towards our immediate neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. I'll take a few questions. But before I take questions, I'd like to tell everyone who's watching this video, if you like it, please press the like button. And of course, I would request more of you to subscribe to Ghana Shot. And because we are living in exciting times, a lot of uncertainty, and India still retains a whole lot of balance. And I think it's still in a place where we have a lot to offer to the world and play our part in our growth, because I don't see growth being stymied in India. So, but we're in for exciting times. So we're going to be discussing more of this. For example, tomorrow I'm going to discuss India's geopolitical mandala. Day after, we're going to discuss about our your priorities, your security priorities, and things like that. Heavyweight, what India centric. So I'd request more of you to subscribe and go ahead with Gunner Shot. So I'll take a few questions now,
Sure.
and